the Startup Scale Up Show, a podcast that inspires entrepreneurs to create meaningful businesses and pursue their passions. My name is Demi Samande and I am a furniture manufacturer, best known for documenting my move to Lagos, Nigeria for hopes of business opportunities. And I'm sitting down with entrepreneurs from across the continent to talk about their process, the lessons they have learned, and how to make real impact. Welcome to Susu. Pedro is a Portuguese born in Mozambique. He studied in Portugal, earning his economics degree as well as an MBA. He is a McKinsey Company alumnus. He has also acted as founder and CEO of SIBS International, where he built a multinational company from scratch. Over a 6-year period, the company generated tens of millions of euros in revenue from a dozen countries, particularly in Africa. Pedro is the founder, shareholder, and CEO of 5,000 Miles. He is also president of Nigeria-Portugal Friendship and Business Association and the Honorary Consul of Portugal in Lagos. And most importantly, he's a proud husband and a father of 2 wonderful children. All right, so officially welcome to Susu Podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much for agreeing to chat with me today. You know, I know that you're incredibly busy, and I know that with the current events at the moment, you're even more busy than you probably were before COVID. So I absolutely appreciate your time, Pedro. I know it's not easy, but thank you so much for joining me on Susu Podcast today. Now, we just want to kind of delve in a little bit because, like I said earlier, you know, I'm very versed in your story. I kind of know, I have a little bit of knowledge, shall I actually say, in, you know, the story of 5,000 Miles. But I think before we kind of delve into, you know, some of the things we're going to be talking about today, can you just kind of give us a little history about you, your formative years? Tell us a little bit about how you grew up, so that the audience can speed up with me.
I was born in Africa. I was born in Mozambique in 1472. And my parents lived in Mozambique all their lives. I went there almost as babies, maybe 2-3-year-olds. And my grandparents went there as young professionals, 20-something. So from 3 generations, we have been involved in Mozambique. So I was born in Mozambique, and when I was 5 years old, there was a revolution in Portugal. And that led to decolonization, and we came back to Portugal. Yeah. So here I did all my studies in Portugal, studied economics, and then later on did an MBA here in Portugal. And that's it. That's where my connection with Africa comes from.
So in terms of your sort of experience and upbringing in Mozambique, how old were you when you left? How old
I was 5.
5 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
So have you traveled around Africa quite extensively since then, or?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Mozambique several times. I have visited Nigeria 100 times, maybe. Not joking.
So I do know.
The first time I went. So in Africa, I visited South Africa plenty of times, several times Mozambique, several times Angola, multiple times Cape Verde, Nigeria 100 times, Algeria maybe 20 times. Morocco many times also, Cameroon, Ghana, Somalia.
So you're very well traveled. Now, just kind of going through that your movement around Africa. How do you think that's really formed your entrepreneurship journey till date? How has that really contributed to where you are now as a business owner?
Well, I think one thing we should look for is to have a coherent path, yeah, and we should build our lives in ways that are adventurous, in which we expose ourselves to challenges, but also in a coherent way. that is a story. There is a story that makes sense. And because I was born in Africa, as I developed my career, I always looked for to have international experiences at younger ages. So I was a consultant at McKinsey and Company, for example, and because I was a consultant in the Lisbon office here in Portugal, an associate. But I wanted to have projects in other countries. So I did, for example, I went to live more than 6 months in Poland.
Okay.
This was, when I was in my 20s. Yeah. So, and I always tried to have international exposure. So when I left McKinsey as a consultant, I started working for one of our clients as head of strategy. And as head of strategy, I developed business in Eastern Europe, started from Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, Romania. So I developed business there and also in Africa. And this is where I had my first contact with Nigeria. The first time I had contact with Nigeria was in 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a separate business that brought you to Nigeria. It wasn't 5,000 miles.
No, but was let's say the professional path. I always wanted it to be internationally exposed. So when I decided to go into entrepreneurship, it was almost seamless. Was very natural move that fit well in all my previous professional experience, which somehow made me confident that I could do entrepreneurship. I started when I launched 5,000 miles. Started working on it on late 2015,
Okay.
and we launched the 1st of January 2016. By that time, I was already 43 years old, married, 2 kids, so massive risk, massive professional risk. I was CEO of a big company here, and I quit from one of the best jobs in Portugal to launch my own company. So I took massive risks. So that's why I talk about coherence, because when we feel that there is something that have prepared you to do that, for me it was easier. Because
So kind of just tell me a little bit, that moment in your whole entire professional work experience where you realized that you in fact were an entrepreneur. Is that something you've always known and you were just kind of going with the
Yes.
journey? Or is it something that you sort of discovered or stumbled across because of your experience? How did that come about?
No, I always knew. I always
Oh,
knew.
really? How old?
Because when I was a teen, my parents, my father was a university teacher
Okay.
of hydraulic engineering, and my mother was a high school teacher of physics. Yeah. So my family background is people. My parents is totally science oriented,
Okay.
science, engineering, everything. And also my sister and brother are engineers. So I was the the odd one with business inclination. And so even when I was a teen, I was extremely attracted each time I had some contact, for example, with a friend, which his father was a businessman. For me was like magnetic. I needed to meet his father. I need to talk. And I would come back home with huge stories to tell my father and my mother about business. Wow, and the guy does this, and they live like that, and this is the plan. And they would just blank and stare at me. Why is this guy talking about? So I knew I was different.
But how old? Try and give me a rough idea of the age where your
From
mind was.
Well, when I started have business inclination, maybe it was around 12.
Oh, 12 years old.
12, yeah, between 10 and 12 it started. You know why? Because as I said, I was born in Africa. When we came back, my parents, because they value education, they put me in I think it's the most elite school here in Lisbon. And for me it was painful, was extremely painful, I can tell you. just because, I was the kid from Africa. Of course, I'm Caucasian, I'm white, but I could feel the difference. I could
Yeah.
feel the difference because the other kids in the school, somehow, all of them were from elite families, very rich families from here, from continental Portugal. Yeah. And I was the kid, me, my brother and sister, we were the kids coming back from Africa. So it was a little bit of a shock culturally, because very uptight, very formal, very well. Their parents all know each other, and we were totally outsiders. And so I started realizing that I have to somehow fight these guys in the same game.
So you find yourself fighting quite a fair bit then. As
Either
a
you
kid from
quit.
Africa.
Is one of those situations when you are a kid. It's, either I quit and be second class forever, or I have to develop these some skills that enable me to fight with the same privilege, let's say. And I always wanted to say, why do I feel bad close to these guys, and why do I don't feel respected? And the only answer I could find is because these guys are wealthier than us, and they are old money in Europe, let's say. Because we were from Mozambique, yeah, completely different lifestyle, completely different, much more open, much more relaxed, much more, singing, dancing, and everything. And these guys were extremely formal. So from there, I understood. Okay, this is a tool, and actually, I have some inclination for it. But there is a side that is also need of being respected, let's say.
That's very interesting. So on your let's fast forward a little bit to your that first trip to Nigeria. Now I know that you've been here multiple times, hundreds of times. I think there was even a point before COVID that you were coming. Was it every month you were visiting Lagos?
Yeah.
How
so
frequently
for a decade, except maybe 2019, that I didn't went as much as before. But for one decade, I went every month to Nigeria.
Now we know that Nigeria's, the population of Nigeria is humongous, and I'm very informed that it's one of the sort of the pulls for you as a businessman coming into Nigeria. Nigeria having one of the largest populations in the whole of Africa, and that ridiculous amount of, was it that, where are we now, about 34 million young people in Nigeria at the moment in terms of our youth population.
200 million
200 million young people in Nigeria.
Young, no, total population.
Yeah, total population, but I think it's about 30 something million roughly of youth from the last time I checked. Now, just looking at that number, it's insane, right? It's humongous. Yes. I think we're only like third or fourth or something to like India, and who else is above us? I think China as well is quite up there at the same time. But for Africa, it's humongous, and I think it's said that by the time we get to about 2050, we're probably going to be the largest, if not, we'll be the largest. That's what's estimated at the moment. With your experience coming to Africa, how do you think, as young entrepreneurs based in Africa, we should start using those numbers to our advantage here? How should we really be interpreting those numbers? Because at the moment, it's good to say we have a huge amount of people. Yes, great, but how do we utilize those numbers in our businesses within Africa?
Yeah, I think the main obstacle for the development of Nigeria is trust. I think that sometimes Nigerians don't understand this. It's not it's not bad roads. It's not lack of power. It's not, obviously, it's not because there's no people around to work. It's not lack of education. All of those things count, but I think the number one obstacle that is also a huge opportunity at the individual level is trust. Because for a set of circumstances, Nigerians don't trust each other in general, and
That's quite deep, isn't it?
foreigners don't trust Nigerians. So this is a curse. This is a curse on the whole Nigerian population, because multinational companies are afraid. Multinational companies don't invest. Multinational companies decide to use expatriates. Almost all multinational companies have expatriates there. And so at the country level, I think that the potential of the large population and particularly of the youth, if there is no trust, people don't work with each other. And then it's not a population, it's not a community, it's a sum of individuals. And so is a curse on the country, but at the individual level is a massive opportunity. I think people don't realize how massive is the opportunity at the individual level.
Okay, so you
One
say
Nigerian that can create a personal brand that says, whatever I say is going to happen, no discussion, no contract is going to happen, is going to accumulate massive prestige, massive wealth, massive respect, because it becomes like a differentiating factor.
So you're saying basically, in essence, it's that although we're lacking quite intensely in trust for one another, on an individual level, there's still a large enough opportunity for Nigerians within Nigeria, despite the fact that we don't necessarily trust one another.
What I'm saying is that there is a branding issue. It's a branding, but it's also a reality. But at the branding level, you have lived in Europe, yeah? You have lived in Europe before, yes. Mm-hmm. And in Europe, if someone says, I'm going to be there by 3 p.m., he's going to be there by 3 p.m. If somebody says, I'm going to wire you 1,000 pounds, he's going to wire 1,000 pounds, 1,000 euros. There's no discussion. It's going to,
for most parts,
it's not 100% certain, but it's like it's reasonable. It's reasonable to expect it's going to happen, and for various reasons, including maybe number one is the 419 plague. Let's say the 419 movement. The reputation of Nigerians was devalued. No, I would not say destroyed, because it's not zero, but was severely devalued. Because each time, let's say, a 419er scams someone else, it's creating a victim that lost money, but it's coming also the whole Nigerian people, the honest Nigerians, are seeing their reputation damaged. Even if they are not involved, nothing. It's just, people start associating. Mm-hmm. And so, as a people, I think there is a strong branding issue that needs to be addressed, because when you are associated with things that are not trustworthy, you lose value. But what I'm saying is that on an individual level, one person, one Nigerian, is a massive opportunity, because you can position yourself as 100% trustworthy, 100% honest. My word is 100% certain and safe, and that creates an individual that is differentiated compared with the others.
So we can start on an individual level. I think that's a good.
I don't know if it's clear what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So basically, despite the whole group, the individual can take full responsibility for how they conduct themselves, despite what the reputation perhaps might say. And I suppose
yes, and when you conduct within proper values, always without failure, you become extremely attractive to international investors, for example.
So I guess in theory it does work. I guess if you start with the self, if everybody focuses on themselves to do better, hopefully the reputation will begin to change, and then the trust will begin to build. So it always starts from the self. But as a whole, I can understand what you're saying in terms of the reputation. I think we're all very, very much aware of what the reputation a lot of Nigerians over the years have sort of gotten around the world, not within even necessarily just in Nigeria, but around the world as a whole. But I also like to think that, as time goes on, it has began to change. I didn't grow up in Nigeria, so Pedro, you're probably more Nigerian than I am. at this
Yes,
stage.
yes.
However, I do like to think that there is a huge shift that's happening at the moment, even with the trust levels, that people are becoming a lot more very much self-accountable for their own actions, and they now understand the value proposition that comes with trust in business.
Yes.
And we know that Nigerians are all very entrepreneurial, that's by nature.
Very.
And without a good reputation, it becomes increasingly difficult to excel as an entrepreneur or anywhere in the business space.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I completely understand. Yes. Now, just on the sort of wave path of what 5,000 miles is doing, or what you guys are sort of positioning in Africa at the moment, how are you finding that your business is conducted any different in Nigeria or any other African countries as opposed to Europe? So, but in essence, what I'm asking is, how's 5,000 miles different in Europe versus Africa? Is there any disparities between the two at all?
Well, normally there is not much, because we have a few rules. We have a few rules in the company that level all our subsidiaries. One of them is that we don't use expatriates. So
yes, I'm aware, and we will get into that because it's very important.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this gives opportunity to the Nigerian team and to the Nigerian office to have their own space and their own personality. Second is because we don't use expatriates, we save a lot of money. Because sending an expatriate, paying for schools, paying for houses, paying for all of that is extremely expensive. The money we save, we invest in the Nigerian team. So we fly our team members to Portugal to spend time with us. They work in our Portugal office, and also they visit other companies. We book for them visits to other Portuguese companies. So that for example, they spend with us 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and during 3 weeks they work a lot in our office, but also in other companies in Portugal, which means that when they go back, they are already exposed to European culture. So this creates an uniform playing field that minimizes differences. Of course, there's always some cultural differences, but in general, with this tactic or this strategy, we can minimize those cultural differences, let's say.
The reason why I'm asking is because if we really just take on what we were discussing beforehand about that disconnect in the way in which Nigerians work together, because I'm guessing majority of the people in your Nigerian office are in fact Nigerians. I'm guessing the staff
100%.
are 100%
It's not
Nigerians.
majority,
Yes.
it's 100%.
Absolutely. So if we have such a huge gap in this trust for one another in order for us to work and to really be progressive in business here, but then you guys have an office where you guys are functioning and things pretty much are working in unison across nations. I'm just sort of wondering what it is that you guys are doing to ensure that consistency is across board in all your locations and all your business offices, that we can possibly take something from to ensure that we can also run businesses within Nigeria who are equally successful in that consistency and that standard, because I like I said, I'm familiar with 5,000 miles, and I know there's a certain standard that you always want to work with, whatever location you're establishing offices in. I'm just trying to understand what it is that you guys are doing in essence, what you think is really driving that level of quality in your staff here that people might be missing.
Is really two leverage. One is to say we trust you and we are not going to put here an expatriate. So when you trust, you also create a responsibility on the other side. If I'm always telling somebody, shut up, just do what I say, execute this task, don't even ask why, you are paid to obey, the person has no responsibility, right? Because it's just like a machine, and a lot of companies are managed like that. We do the opposite. We say, you do whatever you want to do. There's no instructions, but you have this very clear responsibility that I'm giving you because I trust you. Then the person has to choose, do I break this trust and when it's broken, it's forever, there's no second chance? Or do I give all it takes to reward the fact that I have autonomy and that I have trust? So this is one. We trust people and we give autonomy. And normally the result is better than if we try to micromanage. This is one. And the second one is that we try to keep physical proximity. So we don't have expatriates, but as I just said, I go to Nigeria last decade maybe 100 times, 90 to 100 times. And even the team here in Portugal flies there very frequently. The Nigerians fly to Portugal very frequently. And I think that to have a well-oiled, functioning team, high performance, physical contact is important. Physical proximity, but shaking hands, look in the eyes, talk directly without trying to make it too polite. Talk it like you think. Yeah, if something is fantastic, you say it. If it's not well, you also say it. And this kind of proximity helps. That naturally now there is no flights, so for several months the Nigerian team is separated from the Portuguese team. We do video calls every day, but it's not the same thing.
It's not the same
and
thing.
That's, I imagine that if we continue for a long time, we'll create some kind of drifting apart. Humans need physical contact. That's why in business we shake hands.
Yes, I think I absolutely agree that there's a certain degree of that human connection that tech just cannot bridge. We can't use computers. There's no amount of Zoom meetings that I can have that will give me that same experience where I'm with another human being and we're transacting the business, or we're having a discussion about something that we're both incredibly passionate about. Just that handshake. There's something about that handshake. I would travel, halfway across the world just to meet with a supplier, whether it's a client, just to have that one-to-one, that intimate type of interaction that is, well, maybe intimate is the wrong word, but that interaction that...
this is something physical. There's something physical.
Yeah.
Can be misinterpreted. But what I'm trying to say is that physical proximity is important, even in business levels. Being 2 meters apart, shaking hands, is important. It's important to be in the same room, in the same space, in the same table, eating together. It's important. There is a different level of relationship. It's not intimate, but there is also a level of professionalism that requires that. I give you an example. We have an importer in Nigeria that buys from a partner of ours ladders, aluminium ladders. And he's on the Alaba market.
Yes,
it is already away from Lagos, from the center, away from Ikoyi, and bad roads. And before he would buy from Turkish suppliers and Chinese suppliers. Then he started buying from our partner. And I said, you know what? I'm going there just to shake his hand. And he didn't believe that I would go, and I went there, and the guy was visibly moved. He was with him, guys. A very simple man. It's just he's not buying millions of euros. It's just a simple transaction of buying ladders from. So in the middle of warehouse, he puts two plastic chairs. We sit down, we talk he insisted, let's sit down. Very simple warehouse. In the middle of warehouse, surrounded by ladders. He was visibly, he was almost not being able to talk and say, nobody's coming to visit me. I'm in business for decades. And he was an old man, and nobody comes to visit me. Even the wife sit with us, and he was because people need proximity. This is something I am surprised few people talk about this. But it's not just take the product, pay me. There is some level of physical proximity that is important. It's a sign of respect also.
Absolutely. I think Nigerians, we're very good at welcoming people, I think, and appreciating when people do sort of make an effort. But yeah, you definitely cannot deny that human interaction is very, very important. And I probably say even more so now with this distance that we're all experiencing at the moment. So I think finding really creative ways to try and bridge it. And I think I'm particularly, I don't know about you, Pedro, but I'm very much looking forward to when we can travel again. I'm sure the whole world is, where we can actually reach out to somebody and transact in a way that we always have been, and maybe we took for granted at that point, you know? But yes.
100%.
Yeah, so 5,000 miles post-COVID, what's it looking like? What are you guys, how has COVID shaped your business? How has it changed things? How has it improved things? And what opportunities might you guys be exploring right now in your own business?
We had some drop in revenue, maybe 20% drop. So we are not an airline, we are not an hotel, so it didn't went to zero. So this was the first thing that made me very happy, was when day I wake up and say, thank God we are not an hotel. So that part was good. It's already recovering. We started using even more video conferences. Regarding projects for our partners, I think the impact is not so huge. What concerns me more here right now is the team cohesion. Because, we have 4 companies, one in Portugal, one in Nigeria, one in South Africa, and one in Brazil. And all these teams were all of them very connected. We visit each other, and now is many months just doing video calls.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit concerned on what can happen. Of course, everything is recoverable as soon as we have airplanes. But we are becoming just another multinational company that has subsidiaries. And our culture is not like this. Our culture is not calling the MD and asking, how is it going? I need to sit down with people and to understand and to help. And I see small signs that all this distance, so all this social distancing creates stress in the team.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not a believer on, from now on, everything is going to be work remotely and we have Zoom and we do video calls. Not for me. I think it's important, but it's not instead of, is combine both things. Combine presence with video calls.
Yeah, I think it does. It's quite important that we don't exchange one for the other. That we actually, I think COVID has definitely shown an opportunity, but on its own, the sort of social part of it, or the network part of it, the online connectivity part of it, is not enough on its own. I definitely have noticed that. For me, I think I find it a little bit unhealthy, that isolation.
Yeah.
So
it's depressing.
It's very depressing. Yes, and I think it's about time we sort of started moving into getting those connections back. And I can't tell you how excited I am about when I can actually go get on a flight somewhere and don't feel that I have to go into isolation once I land, and life just continues. But I think online connectivity has been fun while it lasted. It's been fun, and I think we're definitely going to keep using it moving forward. And I hope people are not going to have, I don't know, I just hope people don't get used to it. When we go back to normal, and then it's now a case of, let's just keep it all on Zoom. Let's keep it all online. We don't need to go out necessarily anymore.
It depends on kind of people. I think high performance people will go back to face to face.
Yeah.
We'll go back to the offices. We'll go back to have meetings. People that prefer just to stay away from the office and they have a more easygoing lifestyle, maybe they can use the opportunity to justify spending less time in the office. But I think high performance is very tough.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that happened also is that I spend, maybe 10 hours per day in the office. It's really 10 hours with the team, because, I can just call someone or just get up and go talk to someone, exchange ideas. It's 10 hours together. When we work 100% remote work, we do Zoom calls every day. Yeah, but the Zoom call is 1 hour.
Okay.
So the intensity drops, but the quantity of time also drops.
Oh, I
1 hour per day is nothing to be creative. For jobs that are just the organization, I think is okay. But for creatives, for people that have to produce content, they have to have ideas, that marketing, that have to develop new products. I think face-to-face brainstorming, exchanging ideas is completely different than on a video call.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's definitely tougher, isn't it, to try and conduct that type of creativity over a conference
Yes.
call with a group of creatives. I've definitely struggled with that myself during this period. But let's kind of go back a little bit to what you mentioned about your intentionality about not hiring expats. Is there any particular if you kind of just talk me through the reasoning behind that? What was your intention behind that for 5,000 miles? That you were like very, 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 very determined that, okay, because let's not pretend, we know that there are deficiencies in terms of skills, particularly at this part of the world. I'm not so sure about Portugal, and I doubt it, but I know that in Nigeria there's a lot of, we lack quite a bit in that level of expertise that we need in specific industries, and I know that's particularly why a lot of this, big companies rather go down the expat route, because they don't have the time, the resources to train, when they can just bring in an expat that pretty much knows what they're doing. There's a few other reasons behind it as well that I don't really need to go into at this point, but we can probably touch on it a little bit later. But what was your intentionality behind that? What drove that decision for you?
Many things. The first thing is that I'm not a big fan of behavior of expats.
What do you mean by that? You got to
So
break
I
it down
see
for me,
a
Pedro.
lot of expats. I'm going to be crucified for this one. No, but I just see a lot of expats that take it easy. They live in a fantastic home, in a super salary of expatriate, with drivers, with everything. When 1 month early, when they were in the headquarters, they were basically close to a nobody. I know many cases.
Yeah.
They were from the United States. In the United States, they were a nobody in the office. Then they land in Nigeria and they are the end.
Pedro, now we're getting deep. Let's keep it real, because I completely understand what you're saying here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The guy from the UK that was just a junior engineer that was doing, the simplest projects in the headquarters, then lands in Lagos or lands in whatever, and is in Luanda, in Angola, and is the MD or the chief operating officer, and he pretends to be super important and lives in high luxury but doesn't work much. And then there's one thing I hate, that because he knows that he captured something unique, that his salary is now like 10x than it was when he was in London. When he goes back for Christmas or for summer vacations, the first thing is on his mind is to say how bad Nigerians are, because he doesn't want one of his colleagues to go there. So he's going to say, wow, it's so dangerous, and it's Boko Haram everywhere, and diseases everywhere, and these guys don't work, and my house has no AC, and there is no spare parts for the cars. So he's going to try to create an image that life in Africa is tougher than it really is, because this guy will spend some time by the pool, relaxing every day.
It's really interesting what
I know a few cases of this. So this was the first thing that I said, in my company, I want to minimize the chance of having one of these characters that lives like a prince, complains every day, doesn't work much, and to protect that position will burn everything around him, everyone around him, and the situation will just create bad karma. So I didn't want that. Second, because it's very expensive I always thought that the resources could be used to train the local team. So I can decide, should I spend 250,000 euros in an expat or should I spend the same amount in trainings for the local team? Travel them to Europe and everything, expose them. So we decided this option. Let's try. I'm not saying that I will never have, but as much as I can, I'm sure that in 200 million Nigerians, there is one that can meet my quality requirements.
Okay, it's really, really tough. And I think people who are listening to you right now who want to go about building a global business, the expat route is always the route that we always assume will be the quickest route to that that success. And just going back to what you're saying about that sort of that certain attitude of I am the boss, I'm just going to sit comfortably. I think from my experience, what I've noticed with the whole expat approach is that they don't physically do the work. So the Nigerians technically are still doing the work. But on the other side of that coin is, I think, is psychological, because bringing in an expat for a lot of Nigerians is very much about strategy. And it's not so much that the expat has all the expertise in the world. It's that I think a lot of it is that Nigerians have a degree of insecurity that allows them to somewhat worship the expat, but wouldn't necessarily worship themselves. And I think that links back to what you said about the trust. They will trust an expat all day long. They would listen and respect an expat all day long, but will struggle to listen and to respect themselves in certain positions. And I think that those are the two sides of the coin that I've noticed. A little bit of what you said, that expat god that he believes is a god, doesn't actually do much and costs you a fortune. Yes. But in as much as he does very little, he commands a certain degree of respect from the Nigerians that you probably would not get as a business owner otherwise. Is that been an observation you've made yourself, or what would you think?
More or less, because one of the things I think about the Nigerian culture is that it's extremely hierarchical. And this is true for expats and for local ogas. Because you can also have the oga, at the top of the organization, not pushed, not working, and even driving a Rolls Royce, and everybody respects him.
But they're respecting him, or they're respecting the position? Because
they respect power. They respect power. Okay, I think Nigerians respect power. Let's say you are in the UK. Imagine the Prime Minister of the UK getting out of his house in a Rolls Royce and wearing £200,000 watch full of diamonds. People would lose respect for him in the UK. They would say, why is this guy in a Rolls Royce? Why is this guy wearing this so expensive watch? Where is his money coming from? Is he even working? And so, in a way, yes, there is respect for the expat, but I take it further. There is respect for power. Even when we believe that the source of power is not legit, is not honest or something, people still respect. Any guy can park Rolls Royce anywhere. 10 police officers will help him, and you know what? Nobody's gonna say, take this car out of here.
But that's wealth, though. But Pedro, isn't that wealth as opposed to the position? Because I know you can get an expat that is pretty much on the same level as a Nigerian. He commands more respect. In my humble opinion, he commands more respect. Yes. And he's not driving around in a Rolls Royce, nor is he wearing expensive jewelry. And I think there's a certain currency that comes in his skin color that is automatically respected here, whether he has the position or not.
Yes.
He tells you what to do, and you're more likely to listen because you have the perception that because he's an Oyimbo, he knows better, and he's more. It's easier to respect him than it is to respect your fellow Nigerian who probably only has to drive a Rolls Royce in order for you to show him some respect. Does that mean there's power and then there's wealth? Is it which it's I don't know if I'm explaining it quite right, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, but in general, in my opinion, is that the Nigerian culture respects power, respects wealth, respects money, and also respects prestige a lot. You
Yeah.
accept authority. It's very hierarchical.
Yes.
Anyone in my office can open my door, come inside, talk with me, call me Pedro, and there's no. I'm just like anybody else. Yeah.
Yes.
So the culture is more flat. I will not take lack of respect that is blunted. Yeah, if somebody's going to try to undermine my authority, I will not let it be. But in general, it's very informal.
Yeah, you're very approachable, right?
Yes, and in Nigeria, in Africa in general, there is a lot of hierarchy in relationships. The MD of any big organization is a god inside the organization. I think that in European organizations is not so much. It's a little bit, of course, because hierarchy is there, but it's not so much. And it's true that white skin still commands respect. I agree. It's a fact.
Oh, I
what
know.
can we
When
say?
all the 100 times you've been to Nigeria, it's size. Oh, guy, I'm sure you're used to it by now.
Yeah.
Everyone throwing themselves at your feet, trying to help you out. Yeah.
No, not so much. But
Not so much. Have you learned to speak Pidgin English yet?
Not a lot. And I've been I used to know a few things, but
Not much.
not much.
Don't worry. I guess when the airlines come back, you just remember that Demi said the next time you come to Lagos, you got to get some Pidgin English and have a whole conversation in Pidgin English. Let's see how that goes. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So you 5,000 Miles is doing great work in terms of training our local Nigerians. You're investing heavily in ensuring that you're bridging that gap in their talents. You're investing heavily in the individuals in order for it, to really grow the business exponentially. Now, I just want to ask from your experience, how do you go about ensuring that you're hiring the right individuals, the right people that are worth your investment? Because training people is not easy here. It's a huge problem in Nigeria. Many businesses and employers are always very afraid to plow resources and to train people, all in the fear. I guess it goes back to trust again. It's always boiling back down to that trust issue. Out of this fear that they'll just up and leave you. They'll abandon you. They'll take all the knowledge you've taught them, and they will basically turn around and be your competitors. How do you go about selecting the right individuals that you believe in your esteem that are worth the investment, worth your time, and worth that trust?
So when we started, we built a solution for exactly that problem in 3 stages. The first one, we created a training program. We call it the Evolution Program. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we launched this in 2016, I think, the Evolution Program. And we gave basic management and entrepreneurship skills to people that would apply to this program. Okay. Anyone that completed the program would, with success, would receive what we called it would become a field operative. So it's people that work for us, but don't have a full-time employment contract. And they are paid by tasks. So after you complete the Evolution Program, you join as a field operative. And we throw projects at the person and say, you complete this, you get this amount, 100,000 nairas. And the person can complete this assignment. Normally we would split a big assignment in small parts, so we can test the person. Mm-hmm. And so you do this, if you do this, then I give you the other part, then the other part. And maybe we would pay 50,000 nairas for each. But a person could complete one of these blocks of 50,000 nairas in 3 days. Yeah. Okay. So it really was a good incentive for a young Nigerian to work hard. Mm. So we created a system in which you say, if we create the proper incentive for this person to give all it got, then we'll learn if this person is a top performer or not. Mm. And so we would start having a lot of field operatives in paying 50,000 nairas, maybe per week, with people getting 100,000 per week, kids, yeah? And we'd start developing and choosing the best ones. Then when we had maybe 50 field operatives, we were able to say, out of these 50, these 5 are outstanding. Let's give them an employment contract to join the company as a business executive.
Mm. And what's the process of that? What's the runway time of that process? So you do your initial training, field.
The initial training would be like 1 month.
Okay.
Then the person could stay as a field operative. Some of them would fail the first assignment, so would fail in the get out. Some of them would do maybe before they get an offer 5 to 10 assignments with outstanding results. But it's interesting because the person to get 10 assignments would already made $500,000 in assignments before we give him the offer. And then when we give them so these 10 assignments they could be doing in, let's say, a quarter.
Yes.
Over 1 quarter after 3 months, they will get the 10 assignments. Then they get an offer and they join as business executives. We call it operations executives. From there, they can move to operation manager and then to country manager. Our country manager started as a student of the evolution program.
Oh, wow.
So we did do the full
You did the full thing?
the full path. Yeah, the full path.
And how many years has it been with you now? Do you know? Now you're going to crack your brain a little bit.
Maybe 3 years. I don't know.
So that's not bad. That's not bad at all. 3-year runway to get him to that point. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because I think you've obviously noticed that Nigerians, we're naturally very gifted people.
Yes.
And I think sometimes what we lack is exposure. What we lack, like you said, is very much that trust. But I think more importantly, it's that structure that will guide us from progress to progress, from step to step. A lot of the time we don't have any of those things. And people don't get the opportunity to be given incentives to try. Do you understand? We're from a system where we are not necessarily encouraged by many people. A lot of people are pretty much left to their own devices to fend for themselves, to figure it out by themselves, with no hope of anybody really trusting you to really do anything significant. And it's that vicious cycle of I won't do well. Nobody believes I'll do well. I don't do well, and whenever I get an opportunity, I let people down. Type of psychology.
It's 3 o'clock.
It's a very strange thing. I can't even begin to even break it down. But I identify it as a very, very strange thing. But even with that, I know that we're very, very talented people.
Yes.
And given the opportunity, I know for a fact that we can excel because Nigerians are in fact excelling all around the world.
Yes.
But
the first time I fell in love in Nigeria was in traffic. This was maybe 2010. I was in traffic in my car and I noticed these street hawkers selling the bottles of water, gala, selling these small things. And it was extremely hot day. So very hot day. They were under the sun, heavy loads of water, and they were running and to get that 100 naira, they were pushing. And when I noticed that, I was immediately in love with Nigeria. I said, "Wow, these guys are different." Not many Europeans would do that. Yeah. Because he's really hustling. They are going to do whatever it's needed to get those 100 nairas from the next client.
Yeah.
So it's not so much the rich and powerful, but it's the attitudes of the humble people. Yeah.
All right. So I run a furniture manufacturing company, like many of my listeners know. So we make beautiful furniture. We have a big dream to see our furniture in the global market. Now, what kind of things, if you're a business owner, the business person is listening to this podcast and they have their business and they have a big dream as well to see their products in international markets, what type of things should they be doing? What type of things should I be doing myself to position for that level of success now? Because I understand that these things are not just something you do when you're ready, it's something that you work towards. What type of things should we really be putting in place? What type of strategies, what type of corporate governance and things should we be putting in place now so that when we do take that step, we have more of a chance at winning.
So I think there are two things. The first thing is to be is the most obvious, is to be exposed. So to talk with other people that produce furniture, to visit factories in Europe, in other African countries, and to be exposed to the industry in general. This is what I advise 10 times per day to my team and to the other business partners, is go see. Because when you enter a factory that does furniture in Brazil, let's say you go to Brazil and you see 20 furniture factories, and then you go to South Africa and you see 20 furniture factories, then you do the same in Europe. You start to having a network of friends, of people that do the same thing as you, that have their own methods, that have their own systems of control, and they are the real advisors that can help you, that can get you spare parts, that can get you that quality level, that can get you the right processes, the right designs, is the people that do what you do in other places. So to build this network and to go see, I think is very important. I think a lot of people try to go outside to sell before they see. And so the word, there is a word that I love for business that almost, I don't know anyone else that uses this as much as me. That's the word exposure. Yeah. Let's say I do this pen. I need to be exposed to people that buy the pen, that produce the pen, that do the parts, that do the components. And being exposed is really not seeing them, but be seen. But be seen also. Exposure is, we are exposed when others see us. Yeah. So this is the first part. We need to be exposed to the ecosystem, let's say, because luck requires an ecosystem.
Yes.
When we are exposed, we are also exposed to the possibility of having some luck, of having a friend, of having a contact. That's the first one, and maybe is the most important one. There is a second one in furniture. I think is easier, but that's a lot of African businesses don't realize this. Is to export. You have to have a product. Now let me see if I can explain what I'm trying to say. Instead of furniture, let's use mangoes. Okay.
Yes.
Let's say you are a producer, because it's a product that is not consistent. Yeah. One mango can be big, can be small, can be yellow, can be green. It changes. Yeah. So when somebody says, "Wow, I have the most beautiful mangoes, I'm going to export," he doesn't know he doesn't have a product. This is really important. I think I'm giving good value for your audience now.
Please go ahead.
Let me try to explain what I'm trying to say, because this is a bit deep, but this is it. He thinks he has a product because he picks the mango. He says, "You know what? This is a mango. It's a nice mango. Why I don't have a product?" Because the buyer in Europe does not know what is a mango. What do I mean with that? He knows what is a mango, but he cannot define exactly what mango is he talking about. Because to turn into a product must no longer be a mango, but he must say is a mango type A34C. What does it mean? Is this exact color of yellow, this exact weight, this exact level of sugar, this exact whatever, and and becomes. So when he produces mangoes, he'll extract, let's say, 10,000 mangoes out of the farm, but then he needs to sort it in groups that are homogeneous, because the European buyer will tell him, "I don't know what is a mango, but I know what is." Now I don't know the categories of mangoes, but let's say there is a scale, and they say, "I'm wanting to buy mango 34CDX5." And that is a color, a size, a weight, a ripeness, a sugar level, and it's always consistent. And when the European opens the container, he'll collapse if he sees a small mango, a big mango, one is green, one is yellow. He said, "Wow, I was scammed," because I was expecting all of them to be exactly the same. And so to export, the main advice I'd say is that trust level. When you say, "I have this this, let's say, this meat, yeah, the cow. I am going to sell cows. Okay, the European is going again to say, I don't know what is a cow. How old is the cow? How big is the cow? What is the color of the cow? Is it cutted? How is it cutted? Is it packed? How is the package? I cannot have. The trust level comes from this, being able to say an importer, sir, you will not have any surprise. Whatever you buy is exactly what is in the container. And this is needed really for African business people to be able to export, to change mindset and then understand that mango is a fruit, but is not a product until he can have 1,000 mangoes that are all of them exactly the same. And then next month he can replicate, send again the same.
Yes.
So when you say my furniture is this table must be always the same color, the same size, the same, because the buyer cannot have surprises. Needs to be able to trust and say, no problem, I'm going to wire the money. And I know that 1 month from now, I open the container. What's inside is exactly what was decided. Because any surprise destroys trust.
I understand.
You cannot say, oh, the mangoes are not exactly what I described, but these mangoes are very good. Sir, taste it, you will like it. Because I say, I'm not even tasting. Either is exactly what I buy, even if it's better, I don't want it. Must be exactly what I asked for. Always and never have any doubts. This is the key.
So we
It's
must
trust.
start the trust. So we must start putting systems in places that makes our product, or even perhaps, well, you can't export services, or you can export services. I'm sure you can export
You can
services.
export
That's what
services,
you're
yeah.
doing,
You
isn't
can
it?
Yeah.
Yes. So to make sure the product is consistent every time without fail, and you're building that trust from day dot, and you never part from that trust, no matter
Yes.
what. That is the
Yes.
formula.
For
you
example,
need
we
to
export fruit through a partner of us to Nigeria, yeah? And these fruits are from, the source is from many farmers here in Europe, yeah? But because before they are put in a container, they go to a processing unit that has these massive machines. And they load, for example, let's say apples into the machines with a system that drops millions of apples in the machines. And then you can go to a computer and say, okay, give me apples that are these grams in weight, this color, this size, in centimeters exactly. And the machine goes through millions of apples and separates the ones that match the criteria. Then package, and you say everything that is inside this box is the same color, the same weight, the same sugar level, the same everything. So if they are exporting to Germany, the German buyer opens and say, fine, it's exactly what I bought. An apple is not a product. An apple is a fruit. But to become a product must be standardized. It's standards. It's
Standardization. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So in terms of, just going back to your comment on exposure, and I want you to go a little bit deeper in what you mean by that, because, exposure is telling your friends and family members, anybody that's willing to listen, about what it is that you do. Or we sort of talking about, okay, you put yourself out there as a business. You're being strategic about how you're putting yourself out there. So can I just talk to me a little bit about your viewpoints on, I know that you're very big on social media. I know that when you started social media, it wasn't necessarily taken it wasn't necessarily taken or accepted by your peers. I know, because I follow. At the beginning, nobody really understood what you were doing. So can I just talk me through your standpoint on in terms of exposure, social media, how it is a person should correctly be putting themselves out there to get that exposure?
Okay, so the question is this: do you prefer to do business with someone that you know well, or someone that you never met?
Well, the Nigerian in me is saying maybe a bit of both, to be honest. I think it really depends on the type of business I'm doing, no?
But most people will trust someone they know.
Or someone that someone they trust knows, because that's how we do a lot of business, isn't it? We don't necessarily only do business with people that we know, but we do take that referral quite seriously. So I might not know you. Yeah.
Just to give you an example, for me, I was invited to this podcast because I let you know me, right?
Yes.
When you see my when you see whatever I do on social media, in fact, what's happening is I'm opening the windows. I am opening the doors and say, whoever is interested can see me, can know me. I'm available to be exposed. Again, the word exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And some people just watch and don't talk. And some people may say hi, and some people may make a proposal like you did. Let's do a podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. If I was not exposed, this talk would not be happening right now.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very
And
true.
business is like that. People will tend to talk with people they can see. They can follow for some time. Sometimes it doesn't happen. The first time there is a contact. The second time, you can follow someone on social media for 2 years without even saying hi. But then suddenly something happens.
So is that on a personal level, Pedro, or is that because you could, for all I know, you could just do a bunch of content on 5,000 miles. 5,000 miles can literally put out a video every single minute. But is it is it the exposure for 5,000 miles in terms of the strategy, or is it Pedro? Like, how should we go about it? Should we be putting ourselves out there as the business owners, or should we be focusing on perhaps the business, or perhaps it's a combination of both? How do we go about it?
Let's see. Let me try to find an example. Biggest brands in the world, maybe Coca-Cola. Okay, Coca-Cola, everybody knows, right? Coca-Cola, everybody knows. Coca-Cola is. It
Can you see that? It's not. Yeah, it's going to focus.
Okay.
Yes, there we go.
It's focused now. 2.7 million followers.
Yes.
Okay, 2.7 million followers is nothing. For me, it's very big. But if we put here this,
you put Justin Bieber.
Cristiano,
Put Justin Bieber. If you put Justin Bieber, see how many followers.
Yeah, Justin Bieber. Okay, Justin Bieber. How many? Bieber. Hailey Bieber, Justin Bieber. 140 million.
It's mad, yes.
So you see what I mean? People connect with people. Nobody has doubts that Coca-Cola can put Justin Bieber turn Justin Bieber into an employee. Yeah.
Yes.
They can buy Justin Bieber out many times. They can hire Justin Bieber to do concerts for the employees every single day in the canteen. You know, so the Coca-Cola as an organization is many times more powerful than Justin Bieber. Not even on the same league. Yeah, the resources of a company like Coca-Cola is massive.
Yes.
Yeah? But people still connect with people. And Coca-Cola, no matter how important, how big, has 2.7 million followers. So from there, what I say, if Coca-Cola is 2.7 million followers, a corporate brand that is a small brand will have 0.
That's true.
And now we can try to find other brands, but you'll see there is a trend. Top people have more than 100 million followers. Top brands have 2 million, 3 million, 5 million. It's not the same league. People don't connect with companies. People connect with people. Now, what I say is that because our life has multiple dimensions, when we are exposed on social media, it's good also to talk about our business. It's one of the dimensions that we have. It's the way that I see it.
And for those who perhaps don't feel comfortable with it, because many people are very, very much, we're very, very much torn between the put yourself out there to try and help your business, incredibly passionate about your business. You're just, I want to go so far in my business. I'm incredibly ambitious with it. And I'm seeing the world moving in this whole, everybody wants to see the face behind the brand. And I just don't know. I just don't feel 100% comfortable. And, because let's be real, Coca-Cola's been around since 1892. Unless you've got that many years to build your brand, to get it to that point, I don't know any other solutions. How does somebody go about managing that? Because I know you're a bit of an, am I correct in saying that you're a bit of an extrovert? You got a big personality, Pedro. Yes? Not everybody is like that, right? So not all business owners are extroverts. A lot of them are, in fact, functioning introverts. They try their best, but it's not always easiest. Yeah. So how does somebody like that, who really is very ambitious and wants to grow?
But for example, let's try to find business people. Bill Gates. Bill Gates found him. Bill Gates is an introvert. Yeah. Still. More followers than Coca-Cola, yeah? He's like 3 times Coca-Cola.
Huh.
And he doesn't need exposure. Everybody knows who he is. So, but what I'm trying to say is this. I understand what you say. Totally understand what you say. But the question is, it's not about us. What I'm trying to say is this. I'm an introvert. Yeah, but the market wants to see you. The market, the point is, what does the market want? Is not what do I want. I can say, oh, I don't like to do advertisement. Okay. Nobody will know who you are. But it seems when we compare size of corporate brands with size of personal brands tend to win by far.
I see.
Yeah, so it's very analytical process. It's not just I like this or I like that. What I'm trying to say is that from analytical, cold standpoint, it's easy to come to the conclusion that human beings connect with human beings. Then, if it's like that, someone that wants exposure is better to play with a personal brand than with a corporate brand. Results will be bigger. Now you say, but I'm an introvert. Okay, I understand. But the market is the market. The market wants to see the person.
So what you're basically saying in essence is, even if you are an introvert, it's okay to show that you're an introvert. But that's quite a bit of a conundrum, isn't it? I'm an introvert, but I'm trying to put myself out there at the same time.
Yes, that's an excellent point. I think the market is completely saturated of people that try to pretend what they are not. Frankly speaking, another advice I can say I believe this. Some people try to pretend them as bigger than they are. Okay. Now imagine a young Nigerian living in a poor neighborhood with nothing. He can have massive success online because nobody is doing this. Imagine he's saying, I'm waking up. You see, I'm in a small room, 10 guys sleeping in the same room. Now let's see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to play ball in a dirty street. Document that. Now he's saying, lunchtime, I have nothing to eat. I have to eat for night. Now I'm going street talking. Come with me. That person will have much more success if he tells it how it is than if he tries to pretend that he's big. Because there's so many people trying to pretend that I'm no joke. Some of these 419ers, if they would say, see me as I am, will they have more success. But document properly. If he's depressed, say he's depressed. If he is broke, say he's broke. People will connect. People will say, wow, interesting.
Well, the market's looking for authenticity by the sounds of it, isn't it?
I think so.
Regardless of what that picture looks like, as long as it's authentic.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I said, as no matter what that image looks like, so long as it's authentic, that the market wants it. That's basically what I'm getting from what you're saying, and to a large degree, I actually very much do agree, because we are very much saturated with. To be honest, we get so much information on a daily. Every single second, we're bombarded with information. We're bombarded with content. At this point, we're looking for something that's going to just make us feel a little bit alive and excited for something new. And I think nothing ever beats authenticity. This is why probably reality TV is very, very popular.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
people want that realness. And
Yes.
as I know that reality TV has been around for some time now, and I think if we look at it today, people get very sick and tired of a lot of content that they feel is pretending to be real when it's not. And I feel the market can also see through the pretense as well. Because as much as you get people who are pretending to be bigger than they are, you're also getting people who are trying to create stories and drama in the hope that it's going to be received as authenticity when really it's not.
And you know what happens is when you try to pretend that you are better than you are, there is then a deadlock. That is the following. Let's say somebody tries to pretend he's a multimillionaire, yeah, and then you cannot let multimillionaires approach you because they will find out it's fake, right?
Yeah.
But also the ones that are middle class, maybe will avoid establishing a relationship because we say, what's the point?
Yes, because you're
What's the point
unattainable.
of establishing with this? When we say what we are, people like us. There is a saying that I think is Seth Godin. This is the marketeer that says something that I like is people like us do things like this. And this is important in marketing to have this consistency. We that are middle class and trying to build a business behave this way. Other people that behave the same way will approach. So it must be real.
It must be real. Oh, wonderful, 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 Pedro. So, if anybody wants to reach out to 5,000 Miles, who are in fact ready, I'm not quite ready yet. Let me be honest with you. Yeah, give me a few more years. I was actually saying to Clive, give me a few more years, and I'm going to need you guys. Absolutely going to need you guys and your service. But if anybody is actually listening to the podcast and they pretty much feel that they're ready. They're ready to to sort of scale their businesses to that level and want to start going into that international market. How do you suggest they go about it? They contact you guys.
They can go to the website 5000miles.com and send a message there. They can call the company. The phones are on the website. They can contact me directly. But what I will do probably is to redirect them to the general email of the company. And then my team will have talks with the person, try to understand what's exactly are they trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it.
But is there a certain size company that you guys take on?
Not really, because the size is not the most important. It's the attitude.
Okay. And the investment.
It's the attitude of resilience, of being capable of never give up and try to find opportunities, being flexible. Sometimes very big companies are not flexible enough, because any decision requires so many levels of approval that becomes too stiff to operate in an international market. It can only do things that are so big that by brute force they win, But sometimes small companies, mid-sized companies are very flexible. So one of a few things we try to understand is this attitude there? Is the product special? Is the person ready to endure 9 months push? Because nobody, I think, is very is honest to say this. Anyone that tries to go to Nigeria, if they go 1 month, they will have a wonderful experience. But to build a business, nobody builds a business in Nigeria in 1 month or in 3 months. On 6 months. It'll take 9 months. It'll take 1 year. It'll take 2 years to have something.
Yes.
Yeah. So we try to find people that are in for the exposure, adventure, lifestyle, and are ready to prepare to face obstacles and overcome them with time.
Yeah. Okay. That's very insightful. Now, if, for instance, now that they do in fact have all those qualities, are there certain criterias in which you guys sort of judge? Are we talking industry specific sort of businesses? Are there sort of businesses you don't take on and versus businesses that you do take on? What sort of industry would they need to sort of, what criteria do they have to sort of fall into?
Well, when another person approaches us, we always listen, because when someone approaches us, there is already some level of commitment to make the move. When the movement is initiated by us, when it's our initiative to initiate the dialogue, we only try to do partnerships with companies that are already exporting, that are already exposed to international markets, and we believe that the product is, in a way, special, distinctive, or some kind of innovation or design or care or quality, or because it makes it easier. But the most important, for me, the most important filter is this person, when I initiate, is this person already somehow exposed to other countries? Let's say I will not contact a Portuguese company that for 30 years, they never travel, they never go to other countries, they don't have any contact abroad, they don't speak languages, they don't try to export. I know it's too early for them.
Yes.
But if the same company calls us, then I will listen, because for some reason the person decided it's time.
Absolutely. So Pedro, before I let you go, because I've had we've actually gone over the hour, haven't we? We've been having such a good time. It's fantastic. It's always a good sign when you go over the time scale. But before we just round up, you know, an entrepreneur is out there. They're very much just starting their journey. You've been on your journey now for a number of years. I'm a few years into mine, for about 10 years into my journey now. And someone's listening out there, and they really feel that there's a part of them that really wants to embark on this journey of entrepreneurship, and they have the drive, they have that passion, but they don't necessarily feel that they have everything it takes, or maybe perhaps they even have the confidence. What are some of the messages that you would give that person just about to embark in their journey, just to kind of just encourage them, and to kind of give them a little sense of what is to come, a few nuggets that they can take away with them to sort of carry them through?
Number one is pick a product or service that they can produce themselves.
Manufacturing.
Or if it's a service that they can do themselves. Because I think that a lot of young people these days, because they see the Silicon Valley scene and venture capital, they are fooled to believe that that is normal. And so they're going to be, almost every day, I have someone that comes to me and says, you know what, I have this idea, is the next Uber of whatever, and it's the biotech, this and that, and I'm just looking for investors. But they cannot build it without the investors. They cannot build it without technical know-how. So for me, I will listen faster somebody that says, you know what, I like design, I've designed this chair, I have a friend that is a carpenter, let's do a chair. Okay, fantastic. Do you have a chair? Yes, sir, this is the chair. Good, now we are talking. Because, business is about building things. I think this is before thinking about wealth, money, glory, international, is about building things. I will listen faster to someone that says, sir, I'm cleaning cars, I'm washing cars in my street. I'm going to listen. Okay, how many cars have you washed? And do get tips. Clients like your service. Do they call you back? Okay, if he's washing cars, he's doing something. But if he comes with the biotech, teleporting, next, future whatever, getting an oil block, I disconnect immediately. Because where is the $500 million necessary to build that? I don't have them.
So what you're basically saying in essence is that they need to be very practical, and actually have a real product to actually offer the market.
Yeah. So a product or a service. So for example, washing a car is a service. It just needs bucket, water, and soap. Okay, go wash cars. It can become the biggest car washer in Lagos.
Of course. There's a market for it.
Because it just needs to start with one, then get two. Then I can see the dynamics. I like business people that do furniture, wash cars, simple things, because from there, even Facebook started with a simple website. So my main advice is don't go into dreamland, fantasyland, because business is about doing things.
Well, on that note, Pedro, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank
you
you
so
Same
much
here.
for your time. Wow, I thoroughly enjoyed that. Definitely a lot of nuggets in there for anybody listening today to Susu podcast. I hope you guys have definitely enjoyed it, because I know I certainly have. Pedro, we'll be talking a lot more. And I'll definitely be talking a lot more to
We'll stay in
5,000
touch.
miles. And I know Clive is behind there somewhere. Just let him know I said hello. Thank you very much. You guys are an absolute star. So enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you so much, so much. And I absolutely appreciate your time. I know you're a very, very busy man. Thank you so much for joining me on Susu today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And take care of yourself, Pedro.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. So there you go, guys. I hope you guys thoroughly enjoy this episode as much as I have. Now, Pedro is in a class of his own. Is a businessman who really does understand what it really takes to grow an international global brand. You might not be there yet. I, for one, I'm not necessarily there yet, but it's nice to always have that roadmap of this is where we're trying to get to, and having that roadmap as a reminder that, okay, let's stay focused. This is what we need to achieve. This is how far we can take this. You're not just limited to wherever you are right now. So tap into that energy. I hope your fire has been reignited today, that you guys have thoroughly enjoyed this show. So guys, make sure you stay safe. This is COVID. As much as we're very ambitious and we really want to grow our businesses, please do not forget to stay safe above all, and don't forget to be extraordinary in the way that only you can be. Take care, guys. Bye.